Hello, friends, and welcome back to the new episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. And I hope you're ready for another set of great news stories and the first of the bottom. Do you not know how to use the register? I recently made a visit to Wally World with my mom to help her pick out a new laptop since she just got Wi-Fi and was ready to take the internet by storm. This Walmart's electronics department has recently been renovated, so we kind of walked around for a little bit trying to find the laptop section. I noticed two things. It's extremely crowded in here, and there isn't a blue vest in sight. Whatever. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Or so I thought. We finally find the laptops, and I spend a few minutes going over the important details, which for a 60-year-old woman pretty much comes down to screen size and battery life. We find a laptop she likes, write down the model number, and head back to the counter to page an employee. There were about 3 people in front of us. The nearest were a young woman with an impressive unibrow and an older woman standing together. As we take our place behind them, the young woman starts casting some serious side-eye at me. About 5 minutes pass with my mom, and I talk about accessories she'd eventually need when YW bursts out with, "Hey, so I know you can see this line of people. Do you not know how to use the register or something?" The wonderful irony is that I worked at the Big W for around 8 months and therefore do know exactly how to use the register. Not that that's going to help any of us now. My mother, who's not a known giver of Fs, replies with, "He's my son. He's just here helping me with my computer. Now turn your hairy butt around." Helga takes a minute to think up a reply and eventually decides on this gem. Well, who's going to help my mother? I wish this had gone further, but we were both at a loss to figure out why we thought I worked there. I was wearing tan chinos and a bright red button-down. My best guess is that she saw me walking and talking about computers, so we just shrugged and let her continue her seething rage. So who's going to help her mother? Indeed. Self-administered smackdown. Having a very early lunch break, browsing for ladies' wear in a high-end department store, wearing a fairly standard Melbourne, all-black corporate outfit that could easily be confused for staff wear, but carrying a rather large handbag just to be clear, when I hear a voice behind me. Me is me, generally polite, but taking no effing prisoners when annoyed. ATW is appalling troll woman. "Excuse me!" I half turned, smiling over my shoulder, moving aside a bit. I keep shopping. "Seriously?" Okay, at this point, I turn a little further and raise my eyebrows. "Does anyone actually work in this department?" I look very much down my nose just to give the moment that extra special kick in the butt. I have no idea. She's now just glaring at me, red-faced, still not getting it. I giggle on the inside, but on the outside, I just look coolly back at her like I smelled something bad. "Oh, for God's sake!" Then she brushes past me and attempts to also push past a woman coming towards her on the same side. "Excuse me!" And then she walked straight into a mirrored wall. Splat! I have no shame. I'm laughing out loud at this point, practically killing myself, while ATW just stands there with a WTF just happened look on her face. And then for my piece de resistance, I whipped out my phone and gleefully told the tale to one of my GFs in full hearing of ATW and a couple of very straight-faced retail assistants. Ah, it was glorious. Would you like some cheese with your wine? Backstory, sorry if this part's a bit long. I'm a federal government employee who just finished a successful business trip. I was flying home and had a layover in a large international airport. I had a long layover and had gotten a bite to eat and had gotten no notifications about my gate being moved from one of the airports to the other. I and several other unlucky passengers had gone to the original gate and sat wondering where the plane was when it was time to board. Finally, we find an employee who tells us the gate was changed and it's now boarding and set to take off in 8 minutes. We all take off sprinting for the correct gate. For the record, I'm a 55-year-old woman who does actually run 10K races, so I wasn't doing too badly at this. I get to the correct gate, try to pull out my boarding pass on my phone, but it wouldn't work. I made a few more attempts to pull it up, but it didn't work. The gate clerk asked me to wait and she would print one up. I was the last one to board the plane, but I made the flight. Smooth sailing from here on out, right? Wrong. This was a small commuter jet with 2 seats on one side and one on the other. My seat was towards the rear of the plane on the single-seat side. I walk down the aisle and encounter a rather rotund, angry man. His leg was sticking out in the aisle, and I didn't see it as I had my carry-on bag in front of me, and I bumped his leg. No, I'm so sorry. I didn't see your leg. You should be sorry. Watch where the F you're going from now on. I apologize again, but could you please move your leg so I can get to my seat? He scowls at me, but moves his leg. I place my bag under the seat and buckle my belt. After about 15 minutes, we've still not left the gate. Passengers are beginning to wonder why. The pilot comes on and tells us there will be a delay as the plane still needs fuel and no fuel trucks were available at the time. It'd be a 30-minute wait. Angry man. What the F? Is everyone here so GD stupid they can't fuel a plane? Flight attendant. Sir, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I don't give a F how sorry you are. This is outrageous. After 45 minutes, we finally get fuel. The plane should have departed an hour and a half ago. It's now almost 10 p.m. A few rows ahead of me was an apparently non-English speaking couple with their 3-year-old grandson with them. The boy was getting tired and frustrated and started crying, but he was in his seat, so the plane left the gate. We'd been away from the gate less than a minute when he decided to throw a tantrum, undid his belt, and jumped over onto Grandma into the aisle and started to run down the aisle. The attendant sees the lad and notifies the cockpit. Plane stops on the tarmac. Grandma catches the kid, puts him back in his seat with the belt on, which he immediately undoes again and runs screaming up and down the aisle. Grandpa catches him this time and returns him to his seat and puts the belt back on him. He's still screaming and crying, but he's seated. We start moving again for about 2 more minutes when this kid's head pops up over his seat. The attendant calls the pilot again and the plane stops. The angry man is saying so many things that I cannot put in this narrative. Grandma gets him again, goes back to the seat, puts him in her lap. Attendant tries to explain that's not allowed, but she doesn't understand. Neither does Grandpa. The attendant asks if anyone can communicate with the couple. A few try, but they don't seem to understand. The pilot decides to remove the family from the plane, so back to the gate we go. We wait about 25 minutes for a representative from the airline to come and remove the family. The representative comes to remove the family. All of a sudden, Grandpa gets up and yells, "What do you mean we have to get off this plane? I paid good money for this flight." Obviously, no problem with English. The family was removed and we finally got on our way. It's now 11:45, 15 minutes after the plane was originally slated to land, and it was a 3-hour flight. The attendant began the drink service for the flight after about 30 minutes. Once again, the angry man's leg was in the aisle. The poor frazzled attendant accidentally bumped his leg. "What the F is wrong with you? This whole GD trip has been a total pile of horse crap. I want your effing name and your manager's effing name." The attendant gives her name and says, "You can call this number in the morning, but I still need to finish the drink service to the back. Could you please move your leg so I can get by?" He moves his leg but keeps grumbling, then stands up in the aisle. "I'm not finished talking to you yet." He starts to move down the aisle. I jump into the aisle. I'm tired of this obnoxious fool. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" "Who the F are you?" "The person sitting behind you. I just want to let you know you missed a perfect opportunity back there." "What do you mean?" "You should have asked the attendant for some cheese." "Cheese? Why would I want cheese?" "To go with the wine you've been having since you got on this plane." Everyone within earshot is now laughing hysterically. The angry man's face turns red with anger. "I want to know your name. I'm going to report you to the airlines." Me, in a voice just above a whisper, "Sir, I work for the federal government. You really don't want to know my name, but I'd love to know yours." The angry man's face loses all color and he scurries back to his seat and sits down quietly. He politely addressed the attendant as "ma'am" for the rest of the flight. After we landed and we were getting off the plane, the attendant thanked me for what I did, but wanted to know what I said to him. I winked at her and told her to have a better day tomorrow. A young couple with an infant shopping together. They must work here. So I'm in an Australian department store browsing the women's clothing section with my partner and 3-month-old daughter. My partner's pushing the baby, and I'm pushing a trolley full of the stuff we're planning on purchasing. We're chatting amongst ourselves, making goo-goo faces at our daughter. We're, at least in my eyes, a very obvious family unit. It's getting a little warm, though, and I bought a new cot from a second department store that I manhandled out to our car. I wanted to take my jumper off, but under it I'm wearing my uniform for the supermarket I work at, and I jokingly say to my partner, I bet if I take my jumper off, someone will ask me for help. She laughs but insists nobody would confuse the green of my uniform for the blue of the store's. So I take the jumper off. As I've got one arm out exposing the green, a lady who is observing me and my partner the entire time perks up and says, "Excuse me, could you?" Nope, I could not. Sorry, I don't work here. She looks at me a moment, confused. I give her a smile and nod and continue to browse, while giving the "I told you so" look as strongly as I could to my partner. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.